taken. And I'm looking at everybody confused, going, nothing's changed. His performances, his numbers are the same. They've been all year. Like, you're just noticing now that he's got bad mechanics when throwing the football, that his elbow drops and the ball drops, and that's why it sails on him and he can't throw downfield with any kind of accuracy. He always overthrows everything. Like, he's been doing this the whole time. Why are we just noticing now? He's not, taking shots when we need to take shots. He's never done that. We're just noticing this now. Like, all the issues with Teddy, he's holding on the ball too long. Is like, yeah, he's always done all of these things, and he is a very young quarterback being asked to do a lot. I'm not a Teddy excuse maker. I'm quite the opposite. I am the one guy here in Minnesota that holds Teddy unbiasedly, truly accountable for everything. I hold him accountable for all of the negatives that he could have and should have done better on plays, and I hold him accountable for all of the good things that he does that often gets overlooked by people here in Minnesota because it's not big and flashy. So all that being said, Teddy had a horse dung game for almost every time here this season. Like, he has not played good this season. He's played good enough throughout much of this season, but at no point in time has he just flat out played really good. Maybe once or twice this year. That's it. And this past week he was not good. He had 9 pluses to 13 minuses, an overall of -4. Not overly terrible. You can win a game where I grade out your quarterback with a -4 rating. It's not common, but it can happen. It's not insurmountable. So, Teddy, I say that because I want everybody here in Minnesota to really realize and understand, after these two things I just pointed out, the offensive line is not losing us any games. And Teddy Bridgewater has not lost us any games. The coaching staff has lost us games. The referees have made it impossible for us to win and compete in certain games. And yeah, Teddy and the offensive line, there are games where they're not playing good and they're not giving us much of a chance to win either, but they're not costing us wins. At any point in the season, Teddy hasn't cost us a win that we would have had with better play from him. Same with the offensive line. Have not seen either of those all season, and that is the key point here that I'm trying to point out. Everybody else on offense, honestly, they have next to no frickin' grades because we never had the ball. And when we did have the ball, we weren't getting first downs, and we were getting it back to the Seahawks. We had no rushing yards. We had no passing yards. We had no first downs. We had no time of possession. We did nothing on offense at all the whole entire game. So kind of mute. AP had a 5/2. He did have 2 bad plays, but 5 good plays yet. Just never got to touch the ball. Asiata played well the little bit he was involved. Kyle Rudolph was a -1 overall score, missing in action. Rhett Ellison had no impact. Stephon Diggs got called for a penalty. Mike Wallace got called for a penalty that was totally bogus. He should have had a +2 rating. Instead has a +1 because of a bogus penalty. And as I mentioned, Cordell Patterson did return a kickoff back for a touchdown, which was the only points of the game for Minnesota. So there's your offensive review. Not a whole lot to talk about. Like I said, coaching, offensive line, and quarterback play, that's really all you could even take away anything from in this last Sunday's game based on how it played out. So let's get to the defense then, which was riddled with injury and was on the field all day. Could not stop a 3rd down conversion attempt by the Seahawks to save their frickin' chinny chin chins. So let's see, what do we want to do here? Well, let's go through the units again. Defensive line, we had B-Rob continuing to underwhelm. He did have a few nice plays, 3 pluses, and a penalty that was bogus. So B-Rob should have washed even with a +0. Instead, with the bogus penalty, he gets a 3/4 for a -1. Griffin was basically the same, 3/3. Danielle Hunter, one of the lone bright spots. There are 2, maybe 3 bright spots in this game. play-wise, all on the defensive side of the ball that I will point out to you. And the first being rookie Daniil Hunter. He continues to impress and improve every week. A perfect +4 to 0 minuses for his film grade. So great job, young man. Keep it up, Daniil Hunter. And I love seeing him on the field opposite of Everson Griffin. Much more so than B-Rob. B-Rob just, he's not cutting it anymore. He hasn't quite hit the Chad Greenway wall yet, but he's a year away from that, and it's coming, undoubtedly. Then, as I mentioned, filling in for the injured Linval Joseph, we had Sharif Floyd moving over on the defensive line, it looked like, to Linval's defensive tackle spot, and then Tom Johnson moving into Sharif's defensive tackle spot. I thought that was a big mistake. Why would you do that? Because then essentially you have two backups playing at both defensive tackle positions, where if you keep Sharif Floyd at his number 2, his spot on the lineup defensive tackle position, and just plug Tom Johnson in place of Linval Joseph, you've only got one backup in the game at one position. And the other defensive tackle position is your starter that starts at that position. Schematically, it worked big time against the Vikings, having Sharif in Linval's nose tackle, defensive tackle position. When Sharif would get hit with the double teams that Linval gets, he would get moved off the ball, just backed the F up 3, 4, 5, 6 yards away from the line of scrimmage. Just worked backwards. He cannot handle those double teams. Johnson works much better with the double team. He can eat those double teams up better. Now, again, not the way Linval Joseph does. Linval Joseph can eat and fully digest and spit back out a double team with little effort. He's a rare specimen that way, and that's why he's one of the ways he's so valuable to this team. Sharif Floyd is extremely valuable as your number 2 defensive tackle in a 4-3 scheme that gets the one-on-one blocking in the middle, because the other defensive tackle, the nose tackle, D-tackle, is getting the double team from the center and the guard. So that frees up Sharif Floyd with just a guard, and he's got so much explosive athleticism that he wins that one-on-one matchup all the time. But again, he was forced to take on the Linval Joseph role of nose tackle, eating up double teams, and he does not have the physicality nor the technique or experience to handle that. So that was a big, inexplicable coaching error on Zimmer's part as well. But so Sharif Floyd ended up with a 3/3, getting the theme here. Mediocre +0, 3/3. That was the defensive line play pretty much all the way through, except for Hunter. Johnson and Tom Johnson. Tom Johnson came in with a 4 pluses, 0 minuses, same perfect rating as Daniil Hunter. And then our two no-name backups that came in and saw time at D-tackle were Ellis, number 72, who registered 1 minus, no pluses, and Crichton, number 95, who got 2 minuses, no pluses. At least I think that's Crichton. It could be Tretow, but I think it's Crichton. So, D-line overall, not too bad. And like I said, the play of Tom Johnson at D-tackle and Daniil Hunter at defensive end were both good in this game, and the other guys were decent outside of Ellis and Crichton that you wouldn't expect. So their overall grade was a 17/13 +4, and that is with an asterisk bogus penalty on Brian Robeson, where he got flagged for grabbing Russell Wilson's leg after a sack when Russell Wilson attempted to get up and continue running and playing with the football, thus nullifying the act that B-Rob did as roughing the quarterback. However, the refs were as bad as it gets, as I've said over and over here in the show. And so B-Rob got the penalty, was totally bogus. So it could be a +5 even for the D-line. So actually playing fairly well in the absence of Linval Joseph, the best defensive lineman on the team. Where the Vikings failed defensively, other than the scheme play calling, repeatedly just getting burnt by the same 2 frickin' pass plays over and over by Seattle, because you continue to defend it the same way. Just ridiculous. So the things that got us on defense were the play calling, and then the linebacker play, which again was a result of the injury situation with Anthony Barr going out, who's been the one and only stud offensive linebacker throughout this season, and inexplicably trading Gerald Hodges away, who was our number 2, our top backup, I should say, at all 3 linebacker positions, with veteran IQ and experience in a Mike Zimmer defense, as well as youth and explosive athleticism physically. Way to go, Spielman. Totally screwed us over on that trade. But so Barr registered 1+ before leaving the game. His replacement was something named Trusnick, number 59. He had 3 pluses to 6 minuses for an overall rating of -3, constantly out of position. But a couple plays where he did hustle his butt off and make some actual good physical football plays, just by no means ready or, ready, to be asked that of him on the NFL level. Like, we got no business. Where's all this linebacker depth that we were told we had in the preseason that, allowed us to go, oh, we can trade Gerald Hodges away for peanuts and popcorn? Yes, I know Audi Cole's injured. Big whoop. That's not even factored in here. Where's this Watts guy? Where's this Peters guy? Where's this Edmund Robinson guy? Where are all these young stud frickin' linebackers that we were told we had for depth that now are nowhere to be found? We have no linebackers at all. We have Kendricks and Greenway and this thing named Trusnick. But so Trusnick, like I said, -3, 6 minuses, that's a lot. But 3 pluses, So overall, I don't mind his -3 a whole lot. Then we get to the 2 guys that just week after week play terrible, and I know we all love the one guy as a person, and that's fine. And I know that we're all really invested in the other guy as a young building block, and that's fine. But the play on the field of Chad Greenway and Eric Kendricks is awful. Every week after week, Anthony Barr is the only linebacker that knows how to play football in a Mike Zimmer defense on the Minnesota Vikings roster, period. So Eric Kendricks, your weekly worst, did register 2 pluses, believe it or not, to go along with his 9 freaking minuses. So he leads the team in minuses, as always, for a -7 overall rating from your middle linebacker. This is a weekly thing here. Every week he's a -7, a -9, a -5. It's unacceptable. He's terrible. He's playing terrible. I shouldn't say he is terrible or he's going to be terrible. But he's playing terrible, and he has been all year. The only times he's not playing terrible is when Zimmer calls a blitz that's got him blitzing, and he's able to get through unblocked because they're confused, and that's it. Like, those are the only times Kendricks has looked good on film all year. Pass coverage, he's terrible. Run pursuit, he's worse than terrible in run pursuit. But Chad Greenway gave him a run for his money this week. Had the dreaded skunk game. Chad Greenway had 0 pluses. He did not register 1 positive play on my review of the film, and he registered 7 minuses. To give him a tied for team worst overall of -7. So our only 2 real healthy linebackers that should be expected anything from, both gave us a combined total of -14 in the film review. So your linebackers, that was the weakness of the defense. Linebackers on defense, O-line, quarterback, somewhat on offense, and coaching. Linebacker play on defense has got to improve, or nothing is going to change. Vikings are going to continue to look bad, because that's exactly what I was crying last year when it was around this time and teams were running all over us and our defense suddenly looked like a joke, is because our linebacking play was terrible. And that's why we went out and got Kendricks in the second round this past year. We knew that was a priority, and that was the case. I was tweeting with idiots on Twitter that said, you need a D tackle. You need to draft a defensive tackle in the first round because Eddie Lacy ran all over you, and your defensive line, your defense is soft up the middle. And I had to tell these idiots, we've already got 2 defensive tackles in Linval Joseph and Sharif Floyd. You're a moron. But you're right, our defense is soft up the middle. The reason for that being we have no linebacker play at all, with the exception of Anthony Barr, who is a strong side outside linebacker.